He was offered an alien woman as a slave. The man froze the moment he saw her. Elia's Cade stood at the center of the vast alien hall, trying not to show how small he felt. The chamber was carved from dark stone that shimmered like metal. Tall pillars rose toward a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadow. Strange lights floated in the air, glowing softly in colors Elias had no names for. Around him sat dozens of alien delegates, some towering and armored, others thin and sharp-eyed. Their gazes pressed down on him from every direction. He was the only human there. Humanity had joined the Galactic Compact only 3 years ago. Compared to ancient spacefaring empires, humans were new, young, and watched closely. Elias knew every movement he made today would be judged, remembered, and used to decide what humans truly were. He stood straight anyway. Elias was not a soldier. He had no enhanced body, no hidden weapons, no intimidating presence. He was a diplomat trained to listen, to speak carefully, and to understand what others missed. Humans had chosen him for this mission because he prepared more than anyone else. At the far end of the hall sat the ruling house of the Velkari Dominion. Massive beings with thick scales and golden armor fused directly into their skin. They were known across the compact for their strength and their victories. They were also known for something darker. Elias kept his face calm. He already knew what was coming. A deep voice echoed through the chamber as High Lord Kreeth rose from his seat. The Velkari leader stood nearly 3 times Elias' height, his many eyes focused on the human. "Envoy of Earth," Kreeth said, his voice amplified by the chamber itself. "Your species has been granted audience and trade access beyond your rank. This is no small honor." Elias bowed slightly, just enough to show respect without submission. "Humanity acknowledges the honor," he replied in clear, simple words, translated instantly for all to hear. A ripple of low sounds moved through the crowd. Some aliens leaned forward. Others smiled in ways that made Elias uneasy. Kreeth lifted one massive claw. "By our tradition, honor must be answered with a gift." 2 Velkari guards stepped forward. Between them walked a figure that made Elias' breath catch before he could stop it. She was tall but not compared to the Velkari. Her skin shimmered in pale blue tones, marked with faint patterns that looked like stars. Thin restraints wrapped around her wrists and neck, glowing faintly with energy. She walked with slow, controlled steps, her posture straight despite the chains. Her eyes met Elias. They were not empty. They were not broken. They were sharp, focused, and painfully aware of everything around her. Elias froze. For a brief moment, the hall seemed to disappear. He had studied alien psychology, cultural norms, and body language for years. He had seen recordings of enslaved species before. Fear, despair, obedience, those were common. This was different. There was anger in her eyes, quiet, contained anger, and something else. Hope, maybe. Or expectation. Kreeth's voice rumbled again. "A slave taken from a conquered world, strong, intelligent, trained to serve. She is yours, envoy of Earth." The words hit Elias like a physical blow. Around him, murmurs spread. Some delegates watched with curiosity. Others with approval. A few looked bored, as if this was routine. Elias felt his heart hammer in his chest. Every instinct screamed at him to react, but his training forced him to pause. He knew this moment mattered. If he accepted, humans would be seen as no different from the rest. If he refused, he risked insult, retaliation, or worse. The Velkari did not tolerate weakness, and they did not forget disrespect. Elias took a slow breath. He looked again at the alien woman. She did not lower her gaze. Her eyes stayed locked on his, searching his face for something. He realized then why he had frozen. She was not just a symbol, she was a person. Elias lifted his head and spoke. "What is her name?" The hall went silent. The question was so unexpected that even the translators hesitated before rendering it. Kreeth's many eyes narrowed. "She is property," the High Lord said. "Names are irrelevant." Elias felt the weight of every gaze press harder. His voice remained steady, though his hands trembled slightly at his sides. "On Earth," Elias said, "thinking beings have names before anything else." A low, rumbling laugh came from several Velkari nobles. Others watched Elias with sudden interest. Kreeth leaned forward. "You misunderstand our customs, human. She exists to serve. That is her purpose." The woman's jaw tightened. Elias noticed. He took another breath. "Then allow me to ask her." Gasps and clicks echoed through the chamber. One of the guards shifted, claws tightening on his weapon. Kreeth studied Elias for a long moment. The silence stretched, heavy and dangerous. Finally, the High Lord gave a slow, amused sound. "Very well, speak, slave." The alien woman hesitated only a second. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm and clear. "My name is Sithra." The sound of it carried through the hall like a blade drawn slowly from a sheath. Elias nodded once, acknowledging her. "Thank you." Something changed then. The mood in the chamber shifted, subtle but real. This was no longer a simple exchange. Kreeth's amusement faded. "You have been given a gift, human. Accept it." Elias looked back at the High Lord. His thoughts raced. He thought of Earth's history, of chains and markets, of excuses once used to justify cruelty. He thought of the long road humanity had walked to say, clearly, never again. "I cannot," Elias said. The words echoed. A sharp hiss ran through the Velkari ranks. Weapons hummed softly as power systems activated. Kreeth's voice dropped, dangerous and cold. "You insult us." "I do not intend insult," Elias replied. "I intend honesty." He gestured slightly toward Sithra. "Humans do not accept ownership of thinking beings." For a moment, it seemed the entire hall held its breath. Sithra's eyes widened just a fraction. Kreeth rose fully from his throne, towering over Elias. "Then you reject our tradition. You reject our authority." Elias swallowed but did not step back. "We reject slavery." The word hit the chamber like a shockwave. Some delegates reacted with anger, others with surprise. A few leaned back, suddenly thoughtful. Kreeth stared at Elias, his expression unreadable. "You are young," the High Lord said. "Your species has little power. You dare speak judgment here?" Elias met his gaze. "Yes." The single word carried more weight than any speech. He could feel the risk now, sharp and immediate. One order and he would be dragged away. Humanity's fragile position could shatter in an instant. Still he stood. Kreeth turned his gaze to Sithra. "You see," he said, "this is what defiance earns, false hope." Elias felt anger flare, but he kept his voice calm. "Hope is not false because it is rare." The hall erupted in noise. Shouts, clicks, roars. The guards tightened their grip on Sithra. Kreeth raised a claw for silence. Slowly the noise died down. "You will be given time to reconsider," the High Lord said. "Until then, the slave remains under our control." Sithra looked at Elias one last time as she was pulled back. There was fear now, but also something new, belief. As the guards led her away, Elias felt the full weight of what he had started settle onto his shoulders. He had not freed her, not yet, but he had drawn a line. And somewhere deep in the alien hall, among beings who believed chains were natural, the idea that a human would refuse them had taken root. The Velkari thought they had tested humanity. They did not yet understand. The test had just begun. Elias Cade did not sleep that night. The guest chamber given to him by the Velkari was large, cold, and carefully guarded. Smooth black walls reflected the dim blue light that never fully turned off. It was meant to be an honor. It felt more like a cage. He stood near the wide window, looking out at the alien city below. Towers of metal and stone rose like sharp teeth from the ground. Ships moved silently through the air, their lights cutting slow paths across the sky. Everything here spoke of power and control. Elias folded his hands behind his back, forcing his breathing to slow. He replayed the moment again and again. The offer, the chains, Sithra's eyes. He knew the risk he had taken. The Velkari respected strength, not words. Refusing their gift had marked him as unpredictable. Possibly dangerous, possibly disposable. A soft sound broke the silence. Elias turned just as the door shimmered and slid open. Two Velkari guards stepped inside, their armor glowing faintly. Between them stood a smaller figure, Sithra. The restraints were still there, but dimmer now. Her posture remained straight, her expression controlled, though her eyes scanned the room quickly. Elias felt a surge of relief and tension at the same time. "Envoy of Earth," one guard said, "you will speak, briefly." Elias nodded. "Thank you." The guards stepped back but did not leave. Their weapons remained active. Sithra looked at Elias, her gaze sharp. "I did not expect this," she said quietly. "Neither did I," Elias replied honestly. For a moment neither spoke. The weight of the situation pressed down on both of them. "You should not have spoken for me," Sithra said. Her tone was not angry, it was careful. "That kind of defiance has consequences." Elias met her eyes. "I know." She studied his face as if searching for deception. "Why did you do it?" Elias hesitated. Simple English did not always carry deep thoughts easily. Still, he tried. "Because I could not accept you as an object," he said. "And because my people have made that mistake before." Sithra's expression shifted slightly. "Mistake?" "Yes," Elias said. "A long time ago, humans enslaved other humans. We told ourselves it was natural, necessary. We were wrong." The guards shifted, clearly uninterested in history. Sithra, however, leaned in just a little. "And you stopped?" she asked. "It took time," Elias said. "It took pain, but yes." Silence followed. The distant hum of the city filled the room. "You know what will happen now," Sithra said softly. "They will not forgive this easily." "I know," Elias said again. One of the guards gave a low sound of warning. "Time," Sithra straightened. "Then listen," she said quickly. "The Velkari do not fear weakness, they fear exposure." Elias frowned. "Exposure. They believe the compact laws protect them," she said. "They are wrong." Before Elias could ask more, the guards moved forward. "Enough!" Sithra was pulled back toward the door. As it closed, her eyes stayed on Elias. "Prepare," she said. The door sealed shut. Elias exhaled slowly. "Prepare." The word echoed in his mind. The next day, the political pressure began. Messages flooded his console from other delegates. Some were polite warnings. Others were open threats. A few, carefully coded, were expressions of quiet support. The Velkari, however, were silent. That silence worried Elias more than anger. He spent the day reviewing compact law, cross-referencing treaties, trade agreements, and enforcement clauses. Humans had joined late, but they had joined carefully. Every line had been studied back on Earth. Near the end of the cycle, a summons arrived. The High Council chamber was smaller than the Grand Hall, but far more dangerous. Only the most powerful species were present. No spectators, no ceremony. Kreeth stood at the center. "Envoy of Earth," the High Lord said. "You will explain yourself." Elias stepped forward. "I already have." Kreeth's eyes narrowed. "You rejected our authority in front of the compact." "I rejected slavery," Elias replied. A sharp sound echoed as one of the Velkari struck the floor with his tail. "Words," he hissed. "You insult us and hide behind words." Elias did not raise his voice. "Words are what hold the compact together." Kreeth leaned closer. "You believe law will protect you." "I believe law will expose the truth," Elias said. The room grew still. "Explain," Kreeth demanded. Elias activated his console. A holographic display appeared between them. "Article 7 of the Compact Charter," Elias said, "prohibits the ownership of sapient beings by signatory species." A low murmur spread through the chamber. Kreeth's expression did not change. "The Velkari define sapience differently." Elias nodded. "We noticed. That is why humans studied your past rulings." The display shifted. Records appeared, testimonies, genetic and neurological assessments from conquered worlds. Sithra's species was among them. "They meet every recognized standard of sapience," Elias said, "including standards your own scientists once approved." The silence that followed was heavy. Kreeth's claws flexed. "Old data." "Still valid," Elias replied. and still binding. One of the other delegates spoke, a tall crystalline being. "Is this accurate?" Elias inclined his head. "Yes." The Velkari Council members exchanged looks. Kreeth straightened. "You threaten us with procedure." "I invite accountability," Elias said, that word again. "Accountability." Kreeth let out a low, dangerous sound. "You are bold for such a small species." Elias met his gaze. "We had to be." The council dismissed him without further word. Back in his chamber, Elias finally allowed himself to sit. His hands shook slightly now that the moment had passed. He knew what would happen next. The Velkari would not surrender openly. They would maneuver, delay, apply pressure, and they would use Sithra. As if summoned by the thought, his console blinked. A private message. Unmarked source, coordinates, and a single line of text. "Tonight, if you mean what you said." Elias stared at the screen. He knew it could be a trap. He also knew he could not ignore it. Hours later, cloaked by the artificial night cycle, Elias followed the coordinates through a service corridor deep beneath the city. The air was damp and heavy. The walls were rough, unfinished. A figure stepped out of the shadows. Sithra. Her restraints were gone. Faint marks remained on her wrists, but her posture was freer now. "You should not be here," Elias said quietly. "Neither should you," she replied. "How did you—" "Not all Velkari agree with chains," she said. "Some remember when they were weaker." She studied him closely. "You put yourself at risk for me, for an idea." "For a principle," Elias said. Sithra nodded slowly. "Then you should know this." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "The Velkari have broken the charter more than once. Entire records erased, witnesses silenced." Elias' pulse quickened. "Proof." She touched a small device at her wrist. "I was a scholar before I was captured. I saved copies." Elias felt the weight of what she was offering. "With that," she continued, "they will not just be embarrassed, they will fall." Footsteps echoed in the distance. Sithra stepped back. "Choose carefully, human." Before Elias could respond, she vanished into the shadows. Elias stood alone in the corridor, heart racing. He understood now. This was no longer about one woman. This was about what kind of power humanity would be, and whether the galaxy was ready for it. Elias Cade moved carefully after that night. He did not rush. He did not act openly. The Velkari watched him closely now, and he knew it. Their guards followed at a distance. Their systems tracked his movements. Any sudden action would give them an excuse to silence him. So Elias did what humans had learned to do well. He waited. He planned. Back in his chamber, he reviewed the data Sithra had hinted at. She had not given him the proof yet, only the promise of it. That meant trust had to be built carefully on both sides. Elias sent coded messages to Earth using compact-approved channels. Nothing dramatic, nothing illegal, just simple updates written in calm language. Diplomatic pressure increasing. Patience, unity, and preparation. The next council session came sooner than Elias expected. The chamber was full this time. More delegates, more observers. Word had spread. Something was happening and the galaxy wanted to see it. Kreeth stood at the center again, larger than life, his presence filling the room. "Envoy of Earth," he said, "you persist." "I do," Elias replied. Kreeth gestured with one heavy claw. "Your accusations disrupt trade, they spread doubt. You will present evidence now or you will withdraw them." Elias felt every eye turn toward him. This was the moment the Velkari wanted. Force him to act without full proof. Force him to fail. Elias shook his head. "Not yet." A low growl moved through the Velkari ranks. "You test our patience," Kreeth said. Elias kept his voice steady. "I follow compact procedure. Evidence must be verified and shared equally." "Delay," Kreeth said. "Weakness." "Process," Elias replied. The council ended without resolution. Again. That night Sithra contacted him. This time she did not hide. She appeared on his console, her image slightly distorted but clear enough to see her face. "You are running out of time," she said. "I know," Elias replied. "They are preparing a narrative," Sithra said. They will frame you as unstable, as dangerous. Can you give me the proof? Elias asked. Sithra hesitated. Once I do, there is no return for me. Elias leaned closer to the screen. If you do not, there may be no return for many others. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Sithra nodded. Then listen carefully. She transmitted a data package heavily encrypted. Elias' console lit up with warnings as the file began to load. Records of conquered systems, Sithra said. Neural scans, education levels, cultural archives. All erased from public databases. Elias' heart pounded as he reviewed the first files. It was worse than he expected. Entire species labeled non-sapient despite clear evidence of language, art, science, and self-awareness. Velkari officials had signed off on the classifications. This will destabilize the Dominion, Elias said quietly. Yes, Sithra replied. That is why they enslaved scholars first. Elias understood then why she had been targeted. You were dangerous to them, he said. She gave a small, sad nod. Knowledge always is. The next step was the most dangerous. Elias requested an emergency compact review session. The request alone sent shockwaves through the diplomatic network. Emergency reviews were rare. They meant possible sanctions, investigations, even war. Kreeth responded immediately. You dare escalate, the High Lord demanded through a direct channel. I follow the law, Elias replied. You will regret this, Kreeth said. Perhaps, Elias answered, but not alone. The session began with unprecedented attendance. Species that usually stayed silent now watched closely. Some had their own histories with the Velkari. Some had lost contact with neighboring systems long ago. Elias stood before them all. He spoke simply. Humans joined the compact to build trust, he said. Trust requires truth. He activated the display. The evidence filled the chamber, data after data, visuals, testimonies, before and after comparisons of cultures erased and rewritten. The proof was clear. Impossible to dismiss. The chamber erupted. Delegates spoke over one another, some in anger, some in shock, some in grim recognition. Kreeth roared, slamming his claw into the floor. Fabrication, Elias waited. One by one, independent systems verified the files. Crosschecks confirmed the signatures. Time-stamps matched Velkari archives. The truth held. A crystalline delegate spoke again. This violates multiple charter articles. Another added, sanctions must be considered. Kreeth's many eyes burned with fury. You would punish a founding power based on human interference. Elias met his gaze. Based on your actions. The words were quiet, but they landed hard. The council ruled swiftly. An investigation was opened. Trade privileges suspended. Velkari authority over disputed systems frozen. The mighty Dominion staggered. Outside the chamber, unrest spread. Conquered species heard the news. Whispers became voices. Voices became demands. Sithra's image appeared again later that cycle. You did it, she said. We started something, Elias corrected. And now, she asked. Now comes the hardest part, Elias said, making sure this doesn't turn into chaos. The Velkari did not accept their fall quietly. Their fleets repositioned. Their envoys threatened withdrawal from the compact. Some even spoke of force. Humanity responded in one clear, united voice. No threats, no fleets, only law. Human diplomats across the galaxy shared the evidence freely. Neutral worlds were invited to observe. Transparency became a shield. The more the Velkari pushed, the more isolated they became. Within the Dominion, fractures appeared. Lesser houses questioned old orders. Soldiers hesitated. Slaves began to resist openly, knowing the galaxy was watching. Sithra moved in the open now, under compact protection. She stood beside Elias during one broadcast, her posture proud, her voice steady. I was called property, she said, but I remember who I was and who I still am. Her words spread faster than any weapon. For the first time, Elias saw fear in Velkari eyes, not fear of attack. Fear of change. The compact issued a formal ruling. All sapient slaves under Velkari control were to be released pending investigation. The chamber was silent when the verdict was read. Kreeth did not speak. He simply stared at Elias, understanding finally what kind of opponent humans were. Not conquerors, catalysts. As Elias left the chamber, Sithra walked beside him. "You changed the balance," she said. "No," Elias replied. "We revealed it." She looked at him thoughtfully. "The galaxy will remember this." "So will we," Elias said. But deep down, he knew the story was not finished yet. Power never surrendered completely. And the final test was still coming. The galaxy did not change in a single moment. It shifted slowly, like a great weight moving after being pushed for the first time in centuries. In the cycles following the ruling, Velkari space was restless. Trade lanes once busy grew quiet. Patrol ships hesitated at borders they had once crossed without question. On conquered worlds, people looked up at the stars and realized someone had finally heard them. Elias Cade felt the pressure every day. He remained on the Velkari capital world under compact protection, but the atmosphere around him was tense. Some Velkari officials avoided him. Others stared openly, their looks full of anger and wounded pride. Humanity had not fired a shot, and yet the Dominion was bleeding power. Sithra walked freely now. Compact insignia marked her as a protected witness. The chains were gone, but the marks they left were still visible if one looked closely. She stood beside Elias on a wide balcony overlooking the city. Ships moved slowly in the sky, their paths less confident than before. "They are afraid," she said. "Yes," Elias replied. "But fear can turn into violence." "They will not attack openly," Sithra said. "Not with the compact watching." Elias nodded. "That does not mean they will stop." As if to prove his point, an urgent alert flashed across his console. "Emergency council session." Kreeth had demanded it. The chamber was full again, but the mood was different. Where once the Velkari presence had dominated the space, now it felt strained. Their armor looked heavier, their voices louder, as if volume could replace authority. Kreeth stood, his posture rigid. "The Dominion will not accept this humiliation," he said. "You strip us of labor, territory, and honor." A delegate from a neutral world responded calmly. "You are stripped of nothing you did not take first." A ripple of agreement moved through the chamber. Kreeth's gaze snapped to Elias. "This is your doing." Elias stepped forward. "This is the result of your choices." "You weaken the compact," Kreeth growled. "Chaos follows." Elias shook his head. "Oppression creates chaos. Accountability creates stability." The words were simple, but they carried. Kreeth's claws dug into the floor. "What do you want, human?" The question surprised many. Elias answered without hesitation. "Compliance, transparency, and reform." Laughter burst from several Velkari nobles, bitter and sharp. "You expect us to abandon centuries of order," one sneered. "Yes," Elias said. Silence fell. "You expect us to change because a young species demands it," Kreeth pressed. "No," Elias replied, "because the galaxy does." He gestured around the chamber. "You are no longer speaking only to humans." For the first time, Kreeth looked uncertain. The council issued its final resolution that cycle: permanent abolition of sapient slavery across all compact space. Oversight councils formed. Reparations discussed. Velkari authority reduced, monitored, constrained. The vote passed. History shifted again. The aftermath was not clean. Some Velkari worlds resisted. Some freed populations struggled to rebuild. Old systems collapsed faster than new ones could rise. Humanity did not step away. Human ships arrived not with weapons but with supplies. Engineers, educators, mediators. They did not rule. They helped organize. Other species followed. It became clear that humans were not interested in replacing the Velkari at the top. They were interested in removing the top entirely. Months later, Elias prepared to leave the capital world. His mission was complete. Humanity's place in the galaxy was no longer uncertain. It was defined. On the launch platform, Sithra stood with him. She wore no insignia now, only simple clothing from her homeworld. Her posture was relaxed, but her eyes were focused on the horizon. "You are returning to Earth," she said. "Yes," Elias replied. "Others will take over here." She was quiet for a moment. "My people have asked me to represent them," Elias smiled. "The compact would benefit from that." "And humanity?" she asked. "Humanity will listen," Elias said. She studied him. "You did not have to do any of this." Elias looked out at the city one last time. "Yes," he said softly. "We did." Sithra nodded, understanding. As Elias boarded the ship, news spread across the compact. The Velkari Dominion officially ratified the abolition accords, not because they wanted to, because they could no longer stand alone. Across the galaxy, the story spread in 1,000 languages. A human was offered a slave, and said no. On Earth, Elias was welcomed quietly. No parades, no grand speeches, just acknowledgement. That was enough. In the months that followed, human diplomats were requested everywhere. Not feared, not worshipped, trusted. Other species began reviewing their own pasts. Old justifications were questioned. Quiet reforms began. Some resisted, but they remembered the Velkari. They remembered how quickly power built on cruelty could fall once the truth was seen. Sithra stood before the Compact Council for the first time as a free representative. "My people do not seek revenge," she said. "We seek dignity." The council listened. That more than anything marked the change. Years later, historians would look back on that moment. They would not mark it as the rise of humanity. They would mark it as the moment the galaxy learned what humans truly were, not the strongest, not the oldest, but the ones who remembered their own darkest history and refused to let it repeat. When humans entered the stars, they did not bring chains. They brought a question. What kind of civilization do you want to be? And for the first time, the galaxy had to answer.